Pete Rose, not exactly the classiest guy, in town, but I mean, in my opinion, the Baseball Hall of Fame should be known more. The people who are inducted in the Hall of Fame should be known more for their accomplishments, more for their character or anything else. That's what really should be recognized.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hitting for the Cycle, episode 69. I'm your host, Ben Kruse, alongside my co-host, Ryan Touhey, as usual. Ryan, we talk about, obviously, a lot in the baseball world, but of course, we got an absolute crazy weekend ahead of us, to say the least, especially for our area around in New York City with the Celtics, my Celtics taking on the New York Knicks. Obviously, we got the Subway Series this weekend, and just the weekend right before Memorial Day weekend. So it's almost the end of May. We're getting into the crazy parts potentially of summer. The year's gone by like crazy, my friend, and it's going to be a hell of a weekend.
Yeah, we're already halfway through the month of May, and like you mentioned, New York is going to be a frenzy tonight. Two huge sporting events going on in and around the New York City metropolitan area. Of course, like Ben just mentioned, Game 6 of the NBA Eastern Conference semifinals between the Celtics and the Knicks. The Knicks have a chance to wrap up the series tonight at Madison Square Garden. And as a Knicks fan, I can tell you that it's essential for the Knicks to wrap up the series tonight. You don't want to go to the TD Garden for Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. That was my bad Boston accent right there. But Knicks Celtics tonight, Game 6, and then you got the Subway Series, Yankees Mets at Yankee Stadium, and it's going to be an electric atmosphere in both places. Of the three fan bases right here, Yankee fans, Met fans, and Knicks fans, somebody's got to go home happy. So we'll see, but ideally, you'd like two fan bases to go home happy, a baseball fan base and a basketball fan base. But one way or the other, I think the Knicks are going to get the back page of the New York Post tomorrow, depending on how things go, because that's more significant, obviously, with playoff basketball over regular season baseball.
Definitely so. So by next week, my friends, we will know in terms of who will be playing in next week's Eastern Conference Finals, whether it's my Celtics, who come back from a 3-1 deficit without our star in Jason Tatum, or Ryan's Knicks, who will be playing in their first Eastern Conference Finals since 1969, 70, something like that.
No, it was a lot. It was closer than that. It was 1999.
1999. Well, think about it. There's been 20 plus years. So, I mean,
Knicks basketball history is not very as rich and traditional as the Celtics.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's like my Knicks history compared to my Celtics history, it's a lot different. I know a lot more current, recent stuff in the Knicks history. But what is history is Juan Soto is going to be playing in his first game past the New York Yankees tenure. We're going to get into some of that later on the program. But before we get into that stuff in the program, make sure to follow us on our socials right down here on the ticker bar below, Hitting for the Cycles, HFCTC, ETB on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network. Make sure to subscribe to Empty the Bench Podcast Network on YouTube. Follow Ryan Touhey at R2E, R2E97, and also follow me at Ben Kruse, at Ben Kruse144. Of course, I've just been putting a lot of stuff out. X is one of my places to kind of go specific for social media here and there. And obviously, it's been crazy during MLB and NBA and NHL stuff. So make sure to follow us on those socials right there. Also follow us to Hitting for the Cycle at HSTTC ETB. Also to make sure to find us on YouTube at youtube.com/ETB Network. We, of course, put our stuff every single week out there on YouTube. And then, of course, if you guys don't want to hear us talk specifically, but want to hear us, make sure to listen Hitting for the Cycle wherever you guys may get your overall podcasts. And then Hitting for the Cycle is presented by Playback. Tune in later into the show to hear for more. All right, Ryan. Well, to kick off the program for today, we're going to talk about how the MLB has removed Pete Rose, Joe Jackson, and others from the ineligibility list. Of course, Ryan, we talked about Pete Rose, I think several weeks ago, a month ago, about the Hall of Fame situation with him. So he's been kind of in the news as of the last month or two. And this is obviously just another thing to get into. So, Ryan, I'll take it away to you, my friend. What's your overall thoughts about this? I mean, for me specifically, kind of like the overall with the Hall of Fame, I don't understand why you're deciding to remove him when he's not even with us anymore, right? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? You want to get remembered and recognized for a certain type of accomplishment. I mean, just you want to celebrate not only just for yourself, but celebrate with other people. I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. So I'm reading this from the Associated Press. This is by Ronald Blum. This was an article from May 13th, so 3 days ago at the time of this recording. So, in an unprecedented move, Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred reinstated Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and 15 other major former baseball players from permanent banishment from baseball. And this comes after 8 months of P. Rose's passing. P. Rose died at the end of September last year. And obviously, with Shoeless Joe Jackson, he's been banned for even longer than P. Rose, obviously, because he was involved in the Black Sox scandal in the 1919 World Series. And Joe Jackson has the highest career batting average of any former Major League Baseball player who is not in the Hall of Fame. P. Rose obviously is Major League Baseball's hit king, 4,256 career hits, more than anybody who's ever played the game before. And like I said, the two of them are among a group of 17 baseball players who have been reinstated by Rob Manfred, and this happened on Tuesday. And it's a mix of emotions among baseball fans, especially when it comes to Pete Rose, who was banned in 1989 for betting on baseball. He was banned by Bart Giamatti, the commissioner of baseball at the time, the late Bart Giamatti. And Rose tried to be reinstated on two different occasions. He tried to file for reinstatement in 1997, and that was turned down by then Commissioner Bud Selig. And most recently, he tried to apply for reinstatement in 2015, but that was turned down by Manfred. That was Manfred's first year as MLB Commissioner in 2015. And P. Rose's support is obviously undeniable. I mean, P. Rose is without a doubt one of the greatest baseball players of all time. And for God's sake, he's the hit king. And not many people played the game as hard as he did. He was one tough son of a gun, to say the least. And not many people, I think, shared the same love and passion for baseball as Pete Rose. He was tenacious. He was gritty. He hated to lose, and he just loved playing. And like I said, his passion was undeniable. You can't try and fault him for that. You can fault him though for other things, such as the gambling. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Pete Rose screwed up. All right, that's one thing. And the biggest thing when it comes to Pete Rose, I'm ambivalent towards him. On one hand, I appreciate his accomplishments, and I wish a lot of ball players felt the same way about the game as he did and played as hard as he did. Nobody gave 110% more than Pete Rose did, whether it was spring training, the regular season, or the postseason. He played the game harder than anybody else, probably, in the history of the game. So I definitely appreciate and respect Pete Rose from that perspective. I do have a problem with how he conducted himself once his career ended and some of the things that he was involved in, such as the gambling scandal. Really, the biggest problem I had with Pete Rose was the fact that he continuously lied through his teeth for well over almost 20 years after he was banned from baseball. He continuously said and even wrote a book on how I didn't bet on baseball. Actually, no, it was after he wrote the book in 2004 that he finally came clean and said, yes, I did. I did bet on baseball. So Rose has always been a very polarizing figure in and around the sport. I do think it's obviously important to recognize him and showcase his accomplishments. And for me, that's really what the Hall of Fame should be about, more so at the end of the day than anything else. The Hall of Fame has all these rules and conditions, and among them, there's also a character clause for people who are eligible to be inducted. People, take that kind of stuff into consideration, whether you're a class act or a fraud or whatever. But for me, that's all a bunch of garbage. You know, character clauses, all this stuff. Major League, the Hall of Fame has some pretty shady characters in there. Among them, Ty Cobb, who's only second behind Pete Rose on baseball's all-time hit list. Cobb was a notorious racist, for God's sake, and he's in the Hall of Fame. And yes, Pete Rose, not exactly the classiest guy, in town, but I mean, in my opinion, the Baseball Hall of Fame should be known more. The people who are inducted in the Hall of Fame should be known more for their accomplishments, more for their character or anything else. That's what really should be recognized. So, I don't want to hear about how he's a lie. Yes, he's a liar. Yes, he was a narcissist and full of himself. To an extent, he had a right to be. But I understand that he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But still, his accomplishments are too great not to be recognized in the Hall of Fame. And, when it comes to Shoeless Joe Jackson, like I said, he was involved in the 1919 Black Sox scandal, and that left an irreparable stain on the game that led to the commissioner of Major League Baseball position being instituted in the first place. Major League Baseball's first commissioner, I just want to quickly look it up because I forget the name off the top of my head. Kennesaw Mountain Landis, who was appointed in 1920, and he served until his passing in 1944. He banned Jackson and 7 other White Sox players from throwing the 1919 World Series because those players did it because they were unhappy with Charlie Comiskey for not being paid a certain amount, and especially when the White Sox were one of the most dominant teams of the 1910s. So. But Joe Jackson was a legend. He still is, and really his accomplishments should not be overlooked as well. You can't really tell. He was probably before Ted Williams. He was before Ted Williams and Babe Ruth, even like before those guys came to stardom. There was Joe Jackson. He was the face of. He was kind of Ty Cobb's biggest rival in terms of his hitting and of how good he was. So, Joe Jackson definitely needs to be recognized in the Hall of Fame, if you ask me. So, yeah, it's very sticky. Personally, and in terms of them being reinstated after, especially Rose, because he just passed recently, in terms of them being reinstated now, this was kind of their punishment in a way, I think, more so than anything else. I think no matter what, these guys were going to be reinstated at some point. But I kind of had a feeling it was going to be after their passing. This was Major League. This was their punishment. You can't see yourself going into the Hall of Fame except from above. So yeah, it's a very sticky situation, and I'm happy for Rose's family that he's finally back to being eligible. These two, the earliest they're able to be inducted into the Hall of Fame is 2026. It's not a guarantee, though, that they will be inducted, though. I still think there are going to be some guys who are going to try and keep them out. But, we'll see what happens. But my overall feelings toward this are, all right, fine. That's basically it. There's really not much else I can say. It won't be as special as it would have been if, Rose was still alive. But, it is what it is. Fine.
Yeah, it's an absolute shit show of a situation, no matter what you put it. So we're just going to have to figure out in terms of kind of the overall next steps. And it wouldn't shock me, Ryan, if just there's more of this to kind of come down the road. I mean, if they're obviously doing it now, it's just we could definitely see more of this for sure. And I don't get it. Like, I just the timing of it, like, yeah, it's obviously it's the name and of course that speaks volumes, but just putting him in when you can't even celebrate, I don't get it. But it's what it is. It's kind of the way that I guess baseball wants to handle it. And also what you also have to handle is the Rockies still being the Rockies. And we talked about them last week, how bad that they are as an organization, right? They're definitely on the trajectory, Ryan, of being this year's White Sox. I mean, their stats specifically, top to bottom, are abysmal. And so, typically when there's a bad team, right, there's going to be a scapegoat at the end of the day. And that scapegoat is going to be Bud Black. He was fired. Ryan, when he get fired? It was early on.
He got fired on May 11th, so
Sunday. Shit, Mother's Day. talk about a tough day to be fired, from the Rockies. But yeah, Bud Black was fired from the Rockies on Mother's Day after just an absolute abysmal start to the season, which I don't think many people are surprised about. But in his tenure with the Rockies, so he was there for 9 years. He had a 544 record, wins to 690. I don't think, with Bud Black, he's a bad manager at the end of the day. I think just, I know he was over at the Padres, he was doing some stuff over there. The teams that he has run are just abysmal. It's like basically making something out of chicken broth or chicken scratch. It's like there's really nothing that you can really add onto it, because you look at kind of the overall big picture. The front office is obviously it's a bad situation regardless how you want to put it. And I do think Bud Black is going to get back on his feet at some point. I think personally, I think he's going to find somewhere else fairly quickly. Actually, he's just a name specific that's been out there, and I don't think he's bad of a manager as people make him out to be, honestly. I just think that he's just in a really bad situation over with that Rockies team. I mean, you could put, I don't know what type of manager, honestly, could really fix that situation. I just don't, honestly. Because, John Heyman had a tweet, oh my God, right afterward, John Heyman from MLB Network, and he was saying something to the fact of, they fired Red Black, and something to the fact of, I am truly sorry for whoever is coming into this mess. So like the national media knows it's bad. The team knows it's bad. You hear Kyle Freeland basically tearing up, saying like, we're going to start hopefully tearing around. It's, the scapegoat obviously had to happen. When a tough situation's bad, you look at a job, you look at, a team, it's, at the end of the day, like enough's enough, right? And that's what they had to do. They had to fire Bud Black, but I don't really understand the situation, because just the teams that he's been constructing have not been great. I mean, we talked about last week with the Rockies. Their last best team, it felt like, was when we beat them in the World Series, right, earlier on in the 2000s. And Todd Helton, Troy Tulowitzki. It's I know that you were saying last week that you saw the stadium. It's a really nice stadium. They got great Rocky Mountains, but kind of similar like to the Pirates, right? They got great stadiums, but their ownership's not great. And you obviously, it's ironic, right? Where you last week we were talking about Derek Shelton, who obviously that stadium is great, and they have couple stars that you basically could bank on, guys like Skeens and stuff like that, but they just don't put enough invested in on the other part of the team. And then you talk about today, and in terms of this recording, about the Rockies firing their manager, it's, they're a bad situation, and so something had to give, and kind of like Shelton, where he was trying to get the team kind of back on track. Bud Black obviously was there for 9 years. So, just there's really nothing else you could really say besides just, got to feel for the guy.
Yeah, I do feel for the guy, and I feel for the Rocky fans. I really do. And the fact that this is the product that they're getting this year, and almost on a yearly basis. This year is almost incomparable to every other season, because no team has been losing like this, I don't think, ever. I mean, the Rockies, at the time of this recording, are 7-36. And Bud Black was fired on Mother's Day after the Rockies actually won a game, 9-3 over the Padres. But that also came one day after the Rockies got murdered by the Padres, 21-0.
Yep.
So it's just been an absolute clown show of a season for the Rockies. They are clowns.
Did we talk about the Rockies losing 21-0 last week, or was that?
No, because we recorded before that happened.
It just got worse.
Yes, the Rockies are a clown show. They really are. I mean, in terms, I feel bad for their fans. I really do. I don't feel bad for the front office. These guys are absolute clowns, running or driving this clown car off a cliff on a yearly basis. And really, for Bud Black, he was a scapegoat, like you mentioned. I don't think Bud Black's a bad manager, and he's had good teams, and when he's had good teams, he'll lead them to the playoffs. I mean, Black, I know, has never won a World Series as a manager, but if he given a really solid group of baseball players with some stars, I think he could do that. I mean, Black came on board to the Rockies in 2017, and he led them to the National League wild card game. And, I mean, they lost that game to the Diamondbacks. They returned, though, to the wild card game the following year in 2018, and they upset the Cubs at Wrigley Field that year. I know the Rockies didn't do anything in the National League Division Series. Those were the only two postseason appearances for the Rockies under Bud Black's tenure, which is kind of a shame that the Rockies could never really, expand on the success of those playoff appearances. Really, everything started to go downhill for the Rockies during two key moments during Bud Black's career. Number one was when Nolan Arenado was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals in 2021. The return package that the Rockies got in exchange for Nolan Arenado was absolutely atrocious. Austin Gomber was among them. He's the only guy who's still within the Rockies organization. The other guys, Mateo Gil, who is playing in the Mexican League, Tony Losi, whatever the hell this guy's name is, doesn't have a job right now.
My God.
Oh, Elaru Montero is playing in Japan. And Jake Sommers, I have no idea where the hell this guy is. He could be on a deserted island for all I know. That's what they got in return for giving up one of the best defensive third basemen of all time and one of the greatest Rockies of all time. Maybe the second greatest Rocky of all time behind Todd Helton. That's what you got. That's what you got in return to trading Nolan Arenado, a key centerpiece to your organization. And then, of course, signing Chris Bryant to that insane contract, and all the guy's done is get hurt. The Rockies have never been able to develop starting pitching or much pitching at all. I understand they play in one of the toughest ballparks to pitch in. No excuse, though. Their best pitcher in their history has been Ubaldo Jimenez, and nobody's come anywhere close to duplicating him. And Jimenez was good. He was not great. So just combine all that and the inability to really develop solid Major League Baseball players. I know there's a lot of, the Rockies are praying that guys like Ezekiel Tovar and Michael Toglia can blossom, but I really doubt it, honestly. The Rockies they're a poverty franchise. They are an extreme poverty franchise with no hope in sight. And it's a shame that it cost Bud Black his job. The players should feel responsible for that more than anybody because they played like absolute crap this whole season. And they were the ones who got Bud Black kicked to the curb more than anybody. So, and the front office can say, we love Bud Black. We really didn't want to do this, but with this atrocious start, you were the morons who put this team together in the first place. So no sympathy for the Rockies here.
No, right. I mean, heck, Ryan, we could make a trip. If you come down to see me, we could take a trip 40 minutes up the road and you'll see the Double-A team over in Hartford. I bet they can make a better showing.
That Double-A team could probably beat the Rockies.
Yeah, probably.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I definitely would love to take a trip up this summer and see specifically if that team might actually can make a run for the money against this current team. Because my goodness, it's a bad situation. It really, really is. And now it's just in terms of what's next for them. Because like you said, there's really no ending in sight. There really isn't. I mean, what are you going to replace them with? Just kind of another manager, an interim manager that probably is just going to be kicked to the curb and within a year or so. I don't know. It's just,
and not only that, Major League Baseball, they have these anti-tanking rules now implemented. So the Rockies aren't even going to get the number one pick in the draft. So, the Rockies, until they start, learning how to draft better and they start, getting the right mix of players.
Yeah.
And actually learn for the Rockies more so than anything else. The first thing that they need to do is learn how to develop starting pitching. That's the first thing that they need to do. because
Yep.
they've never had a strong rotation ever in their history. Even in 07 when they made the World Series, they only got hot really in September of that year. They weren't a consistent, throughout the first, 5 months of that season, nobody really picked the Rockies to win the National League. It wasn't until, we were going down the stretch that season that the Rockies just caught fire and just started plowing through the National League. But, it was again, when they faced, your Red Sox in the World Series, the Rockies had no business being on the same field as the Red Sox. It reared its ugly head. If you got a couple more pitchers, maybe you could have put up a better fight. I still don't think you would have won, but, it's the Rockies need to develop pitching. They need to. They've had no pitching throughout their history, and they've gotten to the postseason primarily because of their offense. And, I know that the offense will probably always be the reason why when you're playing at Coors Field, but still just develop something. Develop like 2 or 3 starters who are respectable. I'm not saying they have to be, Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, and John Smoltz, but develop like just competent starting pitching.
Yeah, what's up there?
God, Ubaldo Jimenez has been the greatest starter in your history.
Wow.
Can you name any other guys who have been good and been a good Rockies starting pitcher besides Ubaldo?
Oh man, probably not, from what I know.
Yeah, case in point.
Yeah. Hitting for the Cycle is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/CTB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And now back to the show. We go from a poverty franchise over to some real franchises that are playing right now. And one of the biggest weekends that we probably will have all season has officially awaited. And one of the teams specifically is your team, Ryan. And one of the players specifically from your team is coming back to play your team. So we will get to it. And that is no other than the return of Juan Soto overplaying with the other New York team. Of course, he signed that mega deal in the offseason with the New York Mets, and now he gets to play against the New York Yankees. And before, Ryan, we get into your overall thoughts, I figure I have something from John Heyman and Joel Sherman's preview of potentially what is to come with the return of Soto.
Well received, and I did talk to Soto a couple days ago. He's with you. He says it's going to be 50,000 against 1. I mean, he said it matter-of-factly. He understands it. He's been on 4 different teams now. That's unusual for a great player. He's been booed plenty of times. He expects the worst in terms of the booing, and he gets it. And he says he'd just deal with it. He's going to do my stuff, is that what he said? So, he's prepared, and I think we're all prepared for quite an avalanche of boos at Yankee Stadium Friday.
Yeah, I'm sure a couple of Met fans will sneak in. It won't be exactly 50,000 to 1, but it will feel like 50,000 to 1 for sure.
So that was a quick overall clip. You could watch the rest of that on the New York Post There's like a podcast that they do there. So they're basically previewing that. Everybody's been talking all week, but we finally can start playing the games starting tonight. So obviously outside of the big, like we talked about, to open up the show, the Celtics, Knicks, that's of course the biggest part of the rest of the sports world is the Mets, Yankees. Of course, Subway Series is of course great, Ryan, but we talked off the air about how this could be between the return of Soto. Of course, you have Soto Judge, so of course you have that, the masterpiece, of course, there. You obviously have the tension between both teams, where you have up-and-coming team in New York like the Mets, who are trying to get their first World Series, and it feels like ages. You obviously have the Yankees, who were just in the World Series last year. With Soto, of course, he goes over to the other borough over in Queens in the offseason. The storylines are just crazy left to right, and I still remember when the MLB schedule kind of came out. These were obviously some games people were putting down on their calendars to get ready for. And it's crazy that we obviously not only have these games, but we have them specifically at a point in time in which you got playoff basketball and you have this basically coming right together. So the city is going to be absolutely buzzing like no other in a long, long time. So I'm now going to take it over to my Yankee friend here, Ryan, who, of course, saw Soto with this team last year. Of course, all the great memories, of course, bringing that team over to the Bronx. And I know probably a lot of Yankee fans are saying, listen, get this series over with. Like, I don't want to hear the Soto stuff left and right. But I think, to be fair, I think I know, of course, the boos are going to happen. Soto got asked about that in his interview this week. And, of course, Ryan, if you have any other, things about the interview, by all means, go ahead. But what are some of your expectations about this, not only overall the series, but just the overall return of a guy that, of course, brought your team to a World Series last year and decided to, I guess, in a way, take the money, of course, over specifically your team for the long term? And just, what's your overall emotions right now, my friend?
My overall emotions going into this series is kind of similar to Pete Rose being reinstated. It is what it is. I'm not really that crazy about the Subway Series, to be honest with you. I don't really perceive the Mets like in any other regard as to I do most major league teams. Maybe a little more so because they're the other New York team. Mm-hmm. I mean, Met fans hate the Yankees much more than Yankee fans hate the Mets. That's always been the case, and I think that.
As Derek Jeter said in that movie, right? He said they're just the Mets.
That's kind of how I interpret it too.
Yeah.
I don't hate the Mets really necessarily. I don't like their fans. That's kind of what it boils down to. I think their fans are very obnoxious, especially when they haven't won the World Series in almost 40 years. Mm-hmm. And they trash talk. Because the Met fans get satisfaction obviously when the Yankees lose, and I feel like they care about that more than when the Mets win.
It's like a rent-free situation.
Yeah, and I think it's stupid. I think it's absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
I have friends who are Met fans, so I'm not necessarily talking about them. I'm not talking about them necessarily. I'm talking about like the obnoxious. What do they call it? The 7 line or that?
Oh yeah. Well.
That group of people in the outfield, like that group, those crazy people. That's what I'm talking about. People who think that the Mets are the greatest thing in the world and have just have all this domination or superiority.
Well, I'm all for being passionate and stuff, but no, I agree. Like they make it out to seem like it's the best thing since sliced bread. Like you guys got to realize to take any overall account that it's been a long, long time. And of course, the Yankees, of course, haven't been to the World Series in 2009, but they of course can take a look back, whether the fans and stuff want to say and say, listen, like we got a history and stuff. But I will say this. I mean, Yankee fans, to be fair, they got to, of course, kind of admit that the Mets are starting to kind of build something because they were bad for a long, long time, of course, under the Wilpons. So it's like the fact of like, okay, like, let us have our moment per se, but it's like they're trying to take in the fact of like, I guess to you guys that I think they're not taking in the moment. I guess it's more because they see the other team and be like, we're going to try to be like you guys. Like, no, like you guys specifically, like you mentioned, Ryan, like the rivalry definitely isn't more as stronger between the Yankees Mets, I feel like, than the Yankees Red Sox, right? The Red Sox, at least there's that clash, right? Because both teams specifically have been good this century, of course. The Red Sox, of course, has been kind of the team of kind of taking the reins for this century, but as a whole, history-wise, it's been the Yankees, right? The Mets don't have that, right? The Mets don't really have that to look back on. And of course, the history really is just you're the other team in New York. That's really it right now.
Yeah.
But I do think that the Mets, they're going to definitely win something down the road. I do think that they are starting, to be fair, they are starting to build something, but they can't talk, like they've been the Kings of New York. It's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets got Juan Soto for the next 15 years. I definitely think they're going to make another World Series appearance with him.
God, I hope so. My God, like
Yeah, Juan Soto for 15 years. You better make a World Series. You better at least make a World Series.
right.
But yeah, like you mentioned, the Mets, they're a strong team, and really Juan Soto's signing with them is really symbolic. It's really the first time that the Mets have gotten somebody over the Yankees. So I understand the significance of the Mets getting Juan Soto, one of the biggest names in baseball, going to them, choosing them over the Yankees, when the Yankees have all this rich history and pride themselves on being the big bad Yankees and all the money and all the riches in the world you could possibly want. He goes to Queens instead. So I understand the significance there. I do. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And also, the Mets have played pretty well against the Yankees in recent years. The Mets swept the Yankees in the last year's Subway Series. And really, the Yankees have had a hard time with the Mets in recent years. So, Met fans have been, quick to remind Yankee fans of that. So, it's kind of, this is a series where, if you're the Yankees, you definitely want to try and take back a little bit of state bragging rights in a way, because the Mets have beaten you in the Subway Series the past couple of years, really since 2020, like 2019. It's kind of been like mostly Mets. I mean, there's been most of the Subway Series have been like evenly split. Like the Yankees have won 2 games and the Mets have won 2 games, but even the seasons where it wasn't split evenly, the Mets, for the most part, have come out on top. And like I said, last year was a clean sweep of the Mets. So, and, Met fans were, saying how, they were a better team than the Yankees. Maybe that could have been true. Maybe. I mean, like I said, I know they went 0-4. Oh, the Yankees went 0-4 against the Mets last year. But also the Yankees were going through a lot of injuries last year, and they had guys like J.D. Davis playing for them. So, the Yankees weren't exactly at full strength last year when they were playing the Mets. So, and, also Met fans were, obviously, laughing at the Yankees for the World Series loss. Understandably so, when the Yankees had that 5th inning debacle. But also, I mean, the Dodgers killed the Mets in the NLCS. So it's not like you guys looked any better than I know they won 2 games. I know they won 2 games.
I don't know if they killed them per se, but they were just the better team.
Yeah, but if you look at the scores, I mean, they won 9-0, 8-0, 10-2, 10-4. The games that the Dodgers won, it was not competitive.
I get it.
So
Well, the Mets also, to be frankly fair, they were in a position from the first half of last season where they were not in a case to even be getting that far. I think that they were just kind of like, we're just happy and satisfied to kind of be in the NLCS because, I mean, the expectations were, get to the playoffs, but like it's kind of like the Knicks right now, kind of in a way with the Mets right now, right? You're exceeding specifically expectations. And, I think for them now, now you get Juan Soto, right? Now you have him. You're going to hopefully start attracting some more guys. I think they're going to look at getting Vladdy, of course, before he signed that extension. So, I mean, it's coming up for this Mets team. Don't get me wrong, right? Steve Cohen, obviously, and obviously kind of the new trajectory era of team, like you mentioned. The Yankees have had a hard time with them. So Met fans do have the right to talk about that, but they don't have the right to talk specifically about just like the big brother and stuff. Oh, like we're a Mets town now, and all this stuff that you've been seeing on FAN. I'm excited to obviously hear the FAN stuff later today because I do like Evan and Tiki. Kind of that stuff. I know a lot of people don't, but that's obviously radio. And of course, you're gonna have a lot of people that you can't really win with radio when it comes to it. But Evan's gonna be with Tiki over at Yankee Stadium later today. I'm gonna listen to that. They're gonna have Mendoza on. They're gonna have Boone on. So it should be really, really fun. Hopefully the game happens tonight, Ryan. I know that there's been some potential radar forecasts for it. It would figure too with the first game of this highly thing to be rained out, and obviously had to play it tomorrow. I think you guys will be okay. I really do.
It feels like it always rains when the Subway Series is being played. These 2 teams have had so many doubleheaders over the years.
That's right.
It's ridiculous. So yeah, I hope the weather holds up this weekend, but. And there are chances of rain for tonight and tomorrow. I know that. So, but I do think they'll get these games in regardless. They have to. So, and in terms of Juan Soto coming back, I don't hate Juan Soto. I mean, he's still a hell of a ball player.
Mhm.
I mean, but if I was at the game, I would definitely boo him. I mean,
That's fair.
yeah.
Like listen, like that's part of the fan. I will say though, so when Mookie Betts came to Boston, right, for his return, as a Dodger, right, and Xander came back last year. Of course, we had two of our guys, right, that came back, but with other teams. Xander obviously had a pretty good ovation. Mookie obviously had a hell of an ovation. I was actually at the Sunday game. I wasn't planning to go to any of the games, but I do vividly remember I was at my country club watching the game, and I told my brother, I'm like, listen, I'm not doing anything tomorrow. Like, I was so tempted, right? I got home from my country club. I bought a ticket. I went to the game the next day. It was a Sunday ball game. The Dodgers, I think, won. Yeah, it was the game Mookie hit a homer. So, of course, I was at the game that Mookie hit over the monster. But it was just an electric atmosphere. Unfortunately, specifically, it was held with Dodger fans because Dodger fans do travel well, to be fair. But it was a lot of those, like, the fan base has, like, their certain, like, big thing that they bring over with all their fans. I think they did it when they came to invade Yankee Stadium for the World Series. So, yeah, I mean, of course, for you, Ryan, go ahead. I think most fans are going to boo him, but I think more of it's going to be more of like respect. I would think. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think the majority of the fans are going to boo him because he signed with the Mets.
That too.
That's the way that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like because Mookie went. I mean, he left the Red Sox, but it's not like he left to go to the Yankees.
No, he got traded.
He got traded too, right? So I think we're more of the fact of we're more ownership booing compared to specifically him like leaving us.
Yes, I mean
it really wasn't his call. So
the only thing, I mean, Soto is going to get eviscerated tonight. There's no doubt about it. This is probably going to be the second worst reaction that you could receive leaving the Yankees. The only thing that would have made this even worse is if he went to the Red Sox. If he came back as the Red Sox, if he came back as the Red Sox, it would have been it would be way worse. This fan base would be flipping him off and screaming "F you, Soto" at the top of their lungs. Michael Kay on his radio show yesterday or the day before, kind of, gave the fans a heads up. You can boo him. That's totally fine. And I encourage you guys to boo him, but don't come across as classless. Don't say F Juan Soto, all that stuff. I mean, we've kind of already built up a reputation of being a classless fan base to begin with. So, I mean, like they're going that I just think that chance inevitable. I think it's going to happen. Sorry, Michael. I think the fan base is going to chant that regardless. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a hell of an atmosphere regardless. And you mentioned how when you were at the game against the Dodgers, how Mookie hit a home run in his return. Juan Soto will undoubtedly hit a home run this series. Which game and against which pitcher? So I think tonight.
Can I make a bet right now, Ryan? Should I go right now on DraftKings make a bet?
I'm going to say Soto hits 2 home runs this weekend at Yankee Stadium. I think he's going to. I think he's going to homer tonight, and I think he's going to homer against Max Fried on Sunday.
I mean, that would make sense against Fried because, of course, the connection with the Nationals and Braves days.
Yeah.
So I mean, I could see it there, but all I just got to say, I mean, of course, people are not going to listen to me, but just it's going to be absolutely chaotic in New York City tonight. It's going to be rowdy. You obviously not only have these two things, Ryan, but I don't know if you know or aware of this. Kane Brown is going to be over at UBS Arena, and Shakira is performing over at MetLife. So people that are not only sports fans.
We also have a rail strike going on here.
No, I did see that. So yeah,
the community is going to be miserable tonight.
People that are over from Jersey are trying to take transit over because driving is going to be chaotic. It's going to be hectic.
Traffic around this entire state, this entire area is going to be awful.
Yeah.
God bless anybody who's going out tonight.
Yeah. Make sure just people that are out there, just be safe. Try to be respectful. I mean, I'm not expecting to be fully unrespectful.
There are going to be a lot of unhappy customers tonight, I think, regardless.
Yeah. I just got to pray specifically, too, for the people that are working at Yankee Stadium also. Yeah.
Don't overserve, please.
Yeah. It's gonna be an atmosphere that we have not seen. Maybe run until the Yankees Red Sox rivalry like heated days. It could be like that.
or the Dodgers. I mean, the Yankees and the Dodgers, it was pretty heated too.
It
was very heated.
All right. Well, this is actually a great transition because speaking of rivalries, we're going to get into the weekend of rivalry previews, Ryan. And before we get into that, I mean, I know we obviously been doing our team reports. So, Ryan, of course, you guys are coming off of a road trip, right, where you guys played the Mariners, right?
A's and Mariners.
A's and Mariners, yes. So before you obviously want to get into what's to come for your Yanks, let's kind of recap specifically of what was.
Okay, yeah, I'll make this quick because I kind of talked a lot about the Yankees going into the Subway Series. So the Yankees went 4-2 on this West Coast swing. Took 2 out of 3 in Sacramento from the A's and took 2 out of 3 in Seattle against the Mariners. The Yankee offense, for the most part, has been very, very good. The offense exploded in Sacramento in the first game. Jason Dominguez making history, the youngest Yankee rookie to hit 3 home runs in a game, including a grand slam. The Yankees blew out the A's in the first game. The Yankees lost a tough one. The second game, they came back from a 4-0 deficit, took the lead 6-4. However, the bullpen collapsed again, and the A's came back and won that game by the score of 11-7, I believe, in Game 2. Mm-hmm. And then the final game, the Yankees took on their old mate, Luis Severino, and lit him up, and they killed the A's in the final game as well. I think that was by a score of 10-2, if I'm not mistaken.
12-2.
What's that?
12-2.
12-2. They won 12-2. And they took 2 out of 3 in Sacramento from the A's, so a nice series from the Yankees there. Then the Yankees traveled up north to T-Mobile Park to take on the Mariners. The Yankees won the first game 11-5, but it was kind of a bittersweet victory for the Yankees because in the 9th inning, Oswaldo Cabrera badly injured his ankle, scoring on a sacrifice fly from Aaron Judge. You could see it clearly on the broadcast. It was a pretty gnarly, nasty injury, and they had to get the ambulance out on the field and take him off. It was so sad, especially for a young guy like Cabrera, who everybody loves and is always upbeat and joyful. So, unfortunately, Cabrera's season most likely is done. I'd be shocked if he did come back this season. If he did come back, it'd be like the very, very end of the season. It would probably be a miracle if he saw the field again this season. So, in all likelihood, his season's done. So that means DJ LeMahieu's back, and the Yankees are going to be rotating between him and
Peraza
for the meantime at third base. Yankees lost a tough one on Tuesday night in extra innings. They continue to be abysmal in extra innings while on the road. I think with that loss, they are now like 12-26. I think in extra innings on the road ever since this ghost runner rule was implemented in 2021. So they continue to struggle there. And then on Wednesday, though, they faced Luis Castillo and were shut down for the most part by him, but then made a pretty miraculous comeback. Jason Dominguez drove in Anthony Volpe with an RBI double. Paul Goldschmidt hit a pinch hit home run to tie the game. And Aaron Judge, of course, hits the go-ahead home run in the top of the 8th. And the Yankees go on to, or the Tigers after the top of the 8th, 1 of the 2 innings. I think it was the top of the 8th. And the Yankees went on to win that game by a score of 3-2. Nice to see the bullpen hold it down for once with a 1-run lead. And the Yankees go 4-2 on this West Coast swing. And they're going into this series against the Mets with a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, you guys have the Mets, of course, we've talked about so far. The pitching probables, really quick, because we're not getting into that. Tyler McGill against Carlos Rodon tonight. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Griffin Canning against Clark Schmidt. And then Sunday Night Baseball, you got David Peterson against Max Fried. It's pretty good matchups too, Ron, to be fair. You got a couple of southpaws on Sunday night. And then you have Canning, who, of course, has been very good for the Mets, against Clark Schmidt, who's been fairly solid, I'd say, for the most part. So, yeah. And then you guys got Texas, who's coming in. Texas has been kind of They've been kind of up and down, but offensively, they've had their struggles. So, yeah, Yankees, of course, are playing pretty decent ball. Red Sox, it's just a roller coaster, man. Every single week, you have one series that looks like they're going to start kind of getting things going, and then that next series. I did hope that the Red Sox would at least win one of the series, like I talked about last week. But I was kind of disappointed with the way that they finished it off. So the Red Sox went 2-4, when theoretically they probably should have at least taken at least a 500. Just that Detroit series was brutal. So they lost the first game against Kansas City 2-1. And then the next 2 games were great. 10-1 final on Saturday. And then they won 3-1. Rafael Devers has been great as of late. He's been taking the comments from moving over to first base personally, which I actually predicted, funny enough. And then, man, Monday was just an absolute shit show. Very similar like to the Tampa game where Tampa scored like 16 runs. Detroit came out guns blazing, 9 runs in the third inning. Detroit, like we talked about off air, is a very good team. Kansas City and Detroit, very, very good offenses. And wouldn't shock me if both teams won and made the playoffs. And then the Tuesday night game, Ryan, oh my God, was that frustrating. Red Sox had a couple times where they took the lead, but then gave it right back up. The bullpen's just a complete disaster. And Javier Baez, I will definitely have a quick hint in terms of who's hot, who's not. Javier Baez, out of all people, was just traumatizing me for some odd reason. This guy was one of the worst hitters last year. I don't know. That's baseball, I guess, right, Ryan? And then Wednesday, Red Sox were down 5-2 in the 6th inning. Hunter Dobbins wasn't great, but he was manageable. But then the Red Sox came back, made it 5-5, and then they made Willie Abreu and Cedar Rafael made one of the craziest robberies in home run ball that I've ever seen. Willie Abreu comes up, he basically saves the ball from getting out, and then he basically ricochets like a pinball ball right over Cedar Rafael, catches the ball. However, Ryan, it didn't matter. Red Sox got walked off 6-5, get swept in Detroit. Now they're one game under 500. They're actually still on second place. They're 4 games back, though, so they're 4-6 in their last 10. So not great for the Sox. Alex Bregman continues to be great. Starting pitching has been all right, but the bullpen has just been a disaster right now. So definitely got to clean these things up. And then this weekend, you talk about returns with Juan Soto. I get to see the return of Chris Sale, my old friend, guy, of course, that's been with us for the last couple of years, comes back and has a hell of a matchup against Garrett Crochet. You obviously have the Chris Sale against the potential young Chris Sale, budding type of guy, basically a very similar like the battle of the Southpaws. I know Sale obviously hasn't been great so far this year with the Braves, but he should be getting a hell of a reception. A guy that's a World Series champion with us, of course, striking out to win the World Series in 2018 Machado. Love you, Chris, but hopefully we can take it personal against you tonight. No hate from there. And then, of course, we have a game on Fox tomorrow night at Fenway. And then Sunday we get Schwallenbach from the Braves, who's been pretty good for them. And then we got the Mets coming in. So you guys got the Mets to start, and then we got the Mets to finish. So it should be and then we got Baltimore. So we actually have a long homestand ahead of us, Ryan. We got the Braves, the Mets, and then Baltimore, who's just been god awful. So we definitely hopefully can take advantage of this long homestand ahead of us for the Sox. But what are some other matchups that you're looking at, Ryan, really quick before we get into who's hot, who's not? So, we got the White Sox and Cubs. Hell yeah, right? We're talking about the battle of the Sox, right? Unfortunately, though, Ryan, it's like the White Sox are just garbage. So I don't even know like how Cubs fans even like look at this overall matchup anymore.
Yeah, in all honesty, I mean, besides the Yankees and the Mets is by far the most intriguing rivalry matchup because both teams are good. But really, every other matchup you look around the league, there's one team's good, the other team's not. I mean, I guess the second
Texas maybe like
Texas isn't that good.
They're not great, but at least, I mean, it's intriguing. I mean, you look at the game like yesterday, right, where it was a 1-0 final. You got a pitcher's duel between Hunter Brown and DeGrom. It's like Texas isn't great, but, I mean, if there's any other matchup I'd be intrigued by, I guess it'd just be that one.
I guess, well, if I had a look there, I mean, that one's kind of intriguing, I guess. I mean, the Red Sox Braves is pretty intriguing. That's the second most intriguing one for me because it's Sale and Crochet tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Cardinals Royals, I guess, is pretty intriguing. The Royals have been playing much better recently, and the Cardinals have kind of been respectable this season for a change. Yeah. And I kind of predicted that at the beginning of the season that they could maybe exceed expectations. I still don't know if it's going to be able to be sustainable for them. I still think they'll probably fall off at some point. But I mean, that's pretty interesting. The Cardinals and the Royals. The Cardinals have been playing very good baseball recently. So, I mean, that could be an interesting matchup. And I guess the Rangers and the Astros, it's always a fun time when those two teams go at it. Nathan Eovaldi has been the savior of the Rangers season from it being a complete disaster. Lance McCullers, I think this is only his second or third start of the season for the Astros. Maybe his third. He got roughed up really badly in his last start. I forget. I think it was against Cincinnati, and he really got beat up pretty badly.
By the way, the stuff that he had afterward, like, come on, like, as baseball fans, people have to understand that these are also human beings. The stuff that I was seeing was just, I don't even want to put it out on a sandwich. It was awful. Yeah,
it was terrible, and you never want to do that, obviously. But there are idiots who take time out of their day to do that, unfortunately. So that's another matchup. Twins Brewers actually could be an interesting matchup. The Twins have been red hot. They've won 11 in a row, I believe.
Yeah. Ever since I went to that game against them, they've been cooking. Course, right?
I said, and I kind of said, like, last week or the week before, I don't think highly of the Twins at all. And to be honest, I still don't necessarily. I think they're kind of overachieving right now. I still don't think they're as good as the other teams that are ahead of them in the Central. But yeah, they're very solid. They're solid right now, and they have the Brewers who have been up and down all season long. You don't know what you're going to get with them. So we'll see how that goes. And I mean, the Padres and the Mariners, actually, that's a pretty good matchup. Padres and Mariners tonight in San Diego. That'll be fun. And I guess A's and Giants could be a little enticing too.
A's, man. I mean, I know you guys took 2 out of 3 from them, but what are some overall thoughts about the A's? I mean, the A's so far, they're going to battle, man. They're a team that's ain't no pushover, I will say. Like, you got to play touch ball against them every night because, you know, they're a team that I think is – we talk about the Mets on the rise. I mean, this is a team that was just, with Jeff Fisher, a poverty franchise at best. But now they're getting out of it. They are. They're starting to make some treads here.
Well, I definitely think that, you know, they're not awful. I mean, they're in the middle of the pack, I think.
Yeah.
They're middle of the pack, which means that they can play good on one day and they can look bad another day.
Right. That's for a lot of, like, very mid teams.
Yeah. So they're on the rise. There's no doubt about it, though. I think they're definitely on the rise. I think I had them going 80 and 82 this season, which I think is a reasonable possibility. I think there's definitely things to like about them. And I just think that, you know, I think that they could probably make a postseason run within the next 3 years, possibly. I mean, once they get out of this minor league stadium, though, it'll look a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. My predictions really quick for the weekend for the Sox coming up. I think they'll take 2 of 3 from the Braves. I do like that. And then I think that they'll honestly probably, knowing the Sox, will probably lose 2 of 3 to the Mets. I do think the Mets, unfortunately, are a better team than us right now. But we'll see. Hopefully, I'm very, very wrong. But what's not wrong is what we talk about every single week, and that is who is hot and who is not. So I got 3 people for who is hot. I got a lot of people right now who's hot. Javier Baez. You're hot, my friend. Where is this resurgence coming from? I mean, I've seen this guy specifically. I mean, he used to not last year. I mean, he would be whiffing on all these breaking balls. And now he specifically throw these breaking balls, and it's like the Cubs. Javi Baez just came back all of a sudden. I mean, heck, it's good for the league, though. Trust me. I mean, when Javi Baez is good, it's good for the league. And he's also playing the outfield, too. So, man, he's been cooking. So that's one of the guys. And then Aaron Judge. I just gotta say Aaron Judge. I don't think I've had Judge yet, but Judge is just doing right now. I mean, this is just Judge doing his own things. It's stupid what he's doing. 4.12 average, a 497 OBP, a 782 slug. He has it over 1,000 OPS, 1,279 OPS. Like, the guy, you just can't pitch to. You just simply can't pitch to right now. When he is locked in like this, it is good luck to everybody else trying to pitch to him. And then my honorary mention is Manny Machado. Manny Machado right now for the Padres is cooking. He only has 3 homers, so obviously his power hasn't been great, but he has a 340 average, so he's still getting on base, a 410 OBP, a 490 slug, and a 901 OPS. Obviously his OPS finished last year was a 797, so Manny definitely isn't the power guy he once was right now, but he is definitely working a lot of great at-bats, and he's getting on base. So that's very good stuff for the Padres. Man, my who is not. Ryan, I'll take it to you for the who's hot. I always seem to struggle with the who is not. So I'll get back to you on the who is not.
Okay, so for my who's hot, I don't know if you ever watched wrestling growing up. Do you remember the wrestler, the guy named Triple H?
No.
You don't. Okay.
No.
So there was a
I'm not a
wrestler
big
named-
wrestling guy. So.
Oh no, I mean I don't watch it anymore either. But he was a wrestler back in the day that I used to when I was younger. So
Right.
yeah, this guy I'm gonna start calling Triple F, Freddie freaking Freeman. Freeman is killing everybody. He's
Mm.
got the second highest batting average in baseball right now at 370, and he's hitting well over 400 in his last 15 games. He's hitting 464 with 5 home runs, 19 RBIs, 26 hits, and 56 at-bats. He's also scored 14 runs as well. He is somebody who is now going to be in infamy in Yankee history forever, obviously, after the Grand Slam of the MVP award. And he is just, but, you can't deny that this guy's a future Hall of Famer and has got one of the most violent swings I've ever seen in my entire life. The guy's a hitting machine. The guy just hits and hits and hits and hits. And he's not slowing down at his age 35 season. So Freddie Freeman is who's hot for me.
Okay. My who is not. Hold on. Let me see. Is this guy still? Okay. I mean, he's been hitting better. I'm just talking to myself here. Let me see if there's any.
I got my who's not if you want me to go there.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I said Freeman was hot. Who's not? I'm going with another pitcher, Aaron Nola of the Philadelphia.
Oh, yes.
He has been brutal. It's been a year to forget for Aaron Nola so far. It has been ugly. 1-7 with a 6.16 earned run average, and got absolutely torched by the Cardinals in his last outing, in his last game against the Cardinals. I think the Phillies gave him like a 5-0 lead, if I'm not mistaken, and he proceeded to flush that down the toilet. In his last start against the Cardinals on May 14th, he went 3 2/3 innings, gave up 12 hits, 9 earned runs, 3 home runs, and had 2 strikeouts with a walk. And in the previous start against Cleveland on May 9th, he only went 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs and 6 hits. So it's been a rough go for Aaron Nola in this season. It's not been pretty. So he's who's not for me.
Okay, I got my who's not. 2 guys I have not mentioned yet. My who's not, Salvador Perez from the Kansas City Royals. Salvi is just not getting it going. I don't know what's going on. We did pretty well against Salvi all weekend. Ryan, here are these stats right now from Salvi. So right now he's rocking a 221 average, a 260 OBP, a 337 slug, and a 598 OPS. He was once one of the best hitters in the game, and maybe it's just kind of a slow start for Salvi. But I talked about Adley Rutschman, one of the kind of the up-and-coming guys catching-wise. Salvador Perez is not getting it done right now for Kansas City. It's crazy because they're 5 games over the 500. You'd feel like that he would start turning things around. And my other guy too, Ryan, and I don't know what's the curse right now on the Astros first baseman. Jose Abreu wasn't great specific for them. Christian Walker, who is not. Christian Walker, Ryan, 203 average, a 274 OBP, a 335 slug, and a 610 OPS. Looking at his last couple of games here, Christian Walker, he has not gotten a hit in those last 4 games, and he's struck out 8 times. So something's going on there with Christian Walker. I mean, I still think that the bat still plays there, but, this was a guy that the Astros kind of came in. And remember, Yankee fans, they wanted Christian Walker to play first base. So
I was relieved that the Yankees didn't get Christian Walker. I think Walker's I think Walker's okay. I was never really that impressed with him. I know he's got pop, but that's really it. He's not that great of a hitter. Let's be real here.
All right, well, that'll do it for this episode 69 of Inning for the Cycle. Make sure to follow us on all of our socials, and we will see you guys next week with, of course, hopefully the Celtics going to the Eastern Conference Finals. For Ryan's case, hopefully the Knicks, and of course we will talk more about the recap of everything from this week. Of course, the Juan Soto stuff. So it's gonna be a hell of a show next week. We will see you guys there next time.